Hello, everyone. This is Tony. I'm from Neighbours of Hespeler Village, and today I am on the phone with Valerie Bradford, the Liberal MP for Kitchener South Hespeler. I've sent her some questions ahead of time, and I'm just going to be going through them with her. And just because I tend to be an agreeable person, I'm going to try to hold myself at bay and just stick to asking questions and all that, so that way you, the viewer, can decide for yourself what you want to do this election. So hi, Valerie. Can you introduce yourself and share why you decided to run for office?
Yes, so I'm Valerie Bradford, and until a couple of weeks ago when the election was called, I was the Member of Parliament for Kitchener South Hespeler. So when I first decided to run back in 2021 in the fall, I had recently retired after 15 years doing economic development for the city of Kitchener, where I focused on the business community, particularly manufacturing, and how I could help them access government assistance and programs for expansion. I also was chair of the Workforce Planning Board, so I was always involved in labor force requirements and retooling the workforce. So when I retired, the world was closed. You couldn't travel. I still felt that I had things that I could contribute. I was very passionate about the local community, really understood the local economy. And my son, Brad, who was already in politics, said, Mom, you know, this is something you've always wanted to do. You should go for it, because the incumbent wasn't running again. And I had been involved with the riding association doing policy. So I thought, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. If I win, I'll start a whole new career and exciting opportunity. And if I lose, I'll get to spend more time with my adorable grandchildren.
Yeah, I didn't, personal aside, I didn't know that your son was in politics before you. I thought that he went in after you did.
No. If you check an article that Steve Paikin did a couple years ago, that's why the Bradford political dynasty is very different. The son went in first. So I was a single mom raising 3 kids on my own from the ages of 3, 6, and 7. So I had no time or political aspirations at that point. Right now, I don't even have a goldfish depending on me. So I'm free to spend half my time in Ottawa, which is what happens in this role.
Yes. Okay. So this riding includes both Hespeler and South Kitchener. So just because I work with the magazine, what does Hespeler mean to you personally, and how do you see your role in serving both communities?
Well, they're very, very different communities, and I love both of them. Hespeler is the only urban community I have. The village of Hespeler is a very, very special place. So when I first moved up from Ancaster 20 years ago, and I did that because my 3 kids were all training at national figure skating training facilities up in the Waterloo region. So we were up at 5 in the morning on the road at 6 to have them on the ice at 7. And then they go back down to Ancaster for school. And it was just crazy. So I looked at the map, and because one rink was in Hespeler and the other was Rim Park, I decided that Hespeler was the ideal place for us to locate. So I bought a place on Scott Road, and so it was my first home here in the Waterloo region, and it's always held a very, very special place. I understand Hespeler, how passionately Hespeler they are, and go Shamrocks, and yes, I have a great feeling of affection for Hespeler.
And how many years did you live in Hespeler? This is just curiosity.
You know, I've never thought of that. I expect probably 7 or so. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
My kids all went to school in Hespeler, and yeah, it's great. They still have friends from Hespeler.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So what are your top 3 priorities if elected?
Well, my top 3 priorities are basically to make sure that the things that we've promised and talked about actually get implemented, because that's the important part. I'm really, really passionate about getting more affordable houses built. I think that's so critical. And I've long used the example of what happened after World War II. The federal government was very effective about building affordable homes for returning vets very quickly. And many of them, like the St. Mary's Heritage District in Kitchener, is still those wartime houses, and they're still housing families today. So we did it then, and we can do it now. We have, within the last week, launched specifics as to how we're going to do that. We're going to make use of modular housing, which some of which is built right in Cambridge, and can be built year round very effectively, regardless of like the wonderful spring weather that we're having right now. You can build those houses in factories and then move them onto location. And we've seen that happen with Mattamy in Hespeler in Cambridge. So I'm passionate about that. And also, when I ran before, I ran on affordable childcare, because as a single mother, I didn't have that opportunity. And it's people were paying prior to this getting passed the equivalent of a mortgage payment for childcare. And unless you had a very, very high paying job, like a lawyer or something, you couldn't afford, if you had multiple kids in childcare, to return to the workforce. And every family now needs at least 2 incomes to afford the rent or to buy a house. So that was very important. And statistics show for every dollar invested in childcare, invested, not spent, the economy is boosted by $2.50 from the increased productivity of freeing up 50% of the workforce from participating. So that's been very critical. And another thing that I'm passionate about is tax fairness. Right now, single people are always disadvantaged. They don't have the benefit of income splitting or any of those things, and yet they're carrying the whole burden of household expenses by themselves. So they've always been treated unfairly, and seniors especially. I don't know if you want me to talk about that now or later, but I'm really big on tax reform, because right now, and of course, single seniors are doubly disadvantaged. But right now, we force seniors to start withdrawing from their retirement income fund no later than 72. And many seniors keep working past age 65 these days because they want to. They're healthy, they're living longer, they still have things to contribute. And we penalize them because we tax their earned income, but we force them to pull money out of their retirement fund when they're not retired and pay tax on that too, because it gets added into their income. And then when they actually do stop working, their retirement income fund's depleted. So this needs to be addressed. So I spoke with the previous finance minister on that, and I'm like a dog with a bone. I'm going to continue fighting for singles and seniors for tax fairness.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this might be related to the previous question, but what issues and concerns are Hespeler residents bringing up most often in your conversations, and Kitchener South as well, not to exclude?
Well, yes. So I don't think they're any different than other Canadians. So obviously affordability is a concern, affordability of housing. And I already addressed how we're going to get a lot more houses, affordable houses built quickly. People's first home doesn't need to be like the ones they see their parents in after 40 years of trading up. They need an affordable starter home for a small family, for a coupler family. And of course, the affordability of groceries. Canada's always had some of the least expensive food prices in the world because we produce so much ourselves. But obviously inflation got very high worldwide after the pandemic. And unfortunately, the unfair Trump tariffs are going to inflate everything again. But the other thing, the overwhelming concern I'm finding, people are concerned about our formerly friendly neighbor to the south and kind of the hostile economic takeover that he's planned, make no mistake about it. And so that's a concern. So they're looking for stable, predictable, calm leadership to deal with that situation. And that's why I think Mark Carney is the best person for that job. So I think those are the two things people are struggling with as they make their decision for April the 28th.
Okay, perfect. So what sets you apart from the other candidates in this election for Kitchener?
I think there's a couple of things. I think my professional background, I've worked in a number of industries. My first career was in the travel industry. I've worked in banking. I was a certified financial planner. I've been involved in the insurance industry. I've worked in both the public and the private sector. They're not the same. You can't treat things the same. Some people say, well, government should be run like a business. The reality is government has to provide services that can't be done on a profitable basis, or the private sector would be doing it. So you can't expect government to do things on a profitable basis because the services we provide, that's just not possible. So I have worked in both the public and private sector. I do like the public sector because I do like public service, which is a continuation of what I'm doing now. I'm serving the public in a different way. Also, my lived experience as a single mom from the ages of 3, 6, and 7, I was raising 3 kids on my own with no safety net because my family wasn't close by to help me out. So there was no plan B. Plan A always had to work. And it was extremely stressful. Mm-hmm. And money was always tight. You can imagine with the sports activities they had. So I know what it's like to stand at the grocery belt. We paid cash in those days. You wouldn't buy groceries on credit. Watching everything go by and in my mind thinking, okay, when the money runs out before the groceries run out, what do I have to put back? And I know I still remember that anxiety that people feel, so I can relate to what they're dealing with now. And it's hard. I get that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so how does your party plan to handle economic and trade challenges, including tariffs and policies from major global players like the US?
Well, as soon as Mark Carney got selected as our leader and became prime minister, right off the bat, he did a couple of things. So he went off to Europe rather than going to the States. He went off to Europe, where he's well known and respected, being the former governor of the Bank of England. He met with the French and British leadership because we need to shore up partnerships with Europe. Canada has more trading partnerships and trade deals than any other G7 country. We have them with multiple countries, and we need to capitalize on them. Our businesses have naturally gone for the low-hanging fruit, cross-border with the States. It was close by, same language. So that was easy, but apparently that door slammed shut now, and we have to move away from that. The other thing he did was he called a meeting of all the premiers. Canada had become very divided, and teams don't win when they're divided. We now have an external existential threat. We've got them all working together. We've united Canadians. We're getting rid of those crazy interprovincial trade barriers that I was always against the whole time in economic development. They will be gone by July 1st. That'll generate an extra $20 billion a year to our Canadian economy that'll help offset some of the losses we're going to sustain from the tariffs imposed by the states. So, and we're going to make the movement of our labor force across borders far easier. If you can wire a house in Ontario, you certainly could do the same in Alberta or BC. And we need to facilitate labor moving to where the jobs are so that we'll increase our productivity. So those are a couple of things. And again, this was all in the first 9 days.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So what is one misconception about your party or your platform that you'd like to address?
Well, I think one of the things is we hear a lot from the opposition. They're wanting to say that Carney doesn't represent change. He's more of the same. And nothing could be further from the truth. As I just alluded, he considers himself a pragmatist, meaning he gets things done, and he does get things done. When he gets asked questions, and he's very, very available to the media every day. He's taking about 40 minutes worth of questions, and he gives direct answers because he's not been a politician. So if you ask him a question, you're going to get a pretty short, concise, direct answer to what you've asked. I think people find that very refreshing. His first order of business, he revoked the controversial consumer carbon tax. It's gone. I noticed my gas tank has shrunk by about $15 a fill-up right now. That resulted in 20 cents a liter savings. And so that is a great affordability improvement. People will get one more carbon rebate tax credit because check, they were always paid after to reimburse you for what you paid the previous quarter. So people will still get that in April, even though they stopped paying carbon tax on April 1st.
Okay.
So this tells me that he's listening and he's putting money back in the pockets of Canadians. He brings real experience, relative experience as a world-respected economist to this battle that we're facing.
Okay, thank you. My mom is calling me from Holland, and I'm like,
well, that's important. You gotta take care of mama.
I'm sure she'll be fine. I just nice little play text that yeah, I'll call you after. Okay, so thank you for that. So reflecting on your recent term as the Member of Parliament for Kitchener South Hespeler, could you highlight your key contributions and initiatives? And how do you believe these efforts have positively impacted your constituents? And why do you feel this merits your re-election?
Like I say, I did run on affordable childcare, which we did get implemented. Now, Ontario was one of the last ones to sign on. So consequently, we haven't quite, we have achieved 50% at the end of the first year in reduction of cost. The promise of Ontario is that we will reach $10 a day by later this year. So I'll be following up to make sure that's achieved. I mean, the federal government has stepped up and given more money so we can get more spaces because, there's still a shortage of these spaces. And so we've provided that, and we need to make sure that people working in childcare are compensated fairly for the responsibility that they have.
Yeah.
Young people are our most important asset. They're our future, and we want to make sure that they get really high quality care. I was very supportive of the dental care program. By the end of last year, over 10,000 people in Kitchener South Hespeler had been able to access the affordable dental care program. And I also supported in March when we passed to increase it, extend it to cover families with under $90,000 a year income. So that'll make it more people eligible. Dental health is health. If you have poor teeth and mouth infections, it affects your whole health. So it's very, very important that we take care of that for people.
Yeah.
So these are things, and also down on Parliament Hill. So my primary role, I feel, is taking care of my constituents here at home. And I have an excellent staff that do that. If they need federal government assistance, they can reach out to my office and we'll help them with that. Mm-hmm. The other part of my role is in Ottawa. So I was fortunate to be appointed chair of the inaugural Science and Research Parliamentary Committee. We study many, many very interesting things. And I also served on the Public Accounts Committee, where we analyze the spending of the government, what's working, what could be done better. So those were two things as well. So. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thank you. This is the last question for you personally, and then there's one more that I'm asking everyone. So given the visible frustration with Justin Trudeau's leadership, as evidenced by some vehicles' bumper stickers, how will the Liberal Party under new leadership address that discontent? Why should disillusioned voters trust Mark Carney to lead differently?
Well, I think we have to look at why people got disillusioned. There's a couple of reasons. COVID was very, very difficult on people. It was very hard on people's mental health. People are social animals and they need social contact. When they were forced to withdraw from society for a couple of years and keep to themselves, it was very hard. It was particularly hard on young people, teenagers, as they're just coming out to who they are and they need their friends. It was awful. I found when people came out from under the rocks, they were grumpy. They forgot how to socialize. The other thing is our former prime minister was under constant attack by the leader of the opposition for 2.5 years, who blamed him for all the woes of the world. Global inflation, the war in Ukraine, everything that was wrong with your life personally or anything was all Justin's fault. And that was unfair but was effective. If you keep repeating a message over and over again, regardless of whether it's based on fact, people start to absorb it and believe it. As I've mentioned before, Mark Carney is a very different sort of leader with different priorities. He is built for this moment in time. He's an economist, a world-respected economist. He's world-respected as a leader. It takes a long time to get that credence internationally. A new leader that's untested with no profile internationally will take a number of years to get that respect that he comes to the game with right off the bat. He and Donald Trump know each other already. They have met before in their previous lives. There's a mutual respect there because they both have a background in business as well. Donald respects strength and power, and Mark Carney represents that as well. So I think, like, you can already see the relationship changed a bit. Mark made it very clear he was focusing to build relationships with other partners. He didn't go right down to the States right away. No, he said, I'm not meeting or discussing with him till he respects Canada's sovereignty, until he's ready to talk about trade and our relationship generally. So when weeks went by and we got to that point, they had a phone call that went, apparently, according to both parties, fairly well. We're not out of the woods, but I think there's more respect there, and that's going to be great. So I think that Mark Carney's the right person at the right time. When we strengthen our economy and build Canada to be more resilient and less dependent on our former best friend, we'll be stronger for it, and we'll be able to move forward. And our dollar has, oddly enough, already risen in value, and the US has really tanked. And because our underlying economy is still strong. It was strong going into COVID. And yes, that wreaked havoc on everyone's economy, but we largely came out of it better than any other G7. And so I think we'll be okay, particularly if we stand united like we are and fight together.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that. Okay, and so this is the final question I'm asking all candidates. What does Canada mean to you, and what does it mean to be Canadian? And what are you hoping Canada will look like for not only this generation, but future generations as well?
I love this question, Tony. You know, when I go to citizenship ceremonies or I welcome our new citizens into the Canadian family, and actually Kitchener South Hespeler probably has one of the highest rates of immigration in Canada. Last year alone, I signed 2,000 new Canadian citizenship certificates for people that got their citizenship in Kitchener South Hespeler. And there's two kinds of Canadians: those of us that were fortunate enough to be born here by the luck of the draw, and those that choose Canada. And I find those that choose Canada are extremely passionate about things we take for granted. So what makes me proud? The beautiful scenery, the vast, diverse country that we are. The people are generally very friendly and accepting. We've been built on immigration. The diversity in our community, everybody brings their culture, customs, and food, and we get to share it all. It's amazing. But I think there's two things that really strike to my heart. Our beautiful Canadian flag that just celebrated its 60th birthday back on February the 15th. I would say one of the most recognized flags in the world, and for what it stands for. When I return home from international travel and you land at Pearson and you're walking down the ramp, and before you get to the customs hall, you see the big, beautiful Canadian flag. It just makes my heart feel good. You're home. And I would draw people's attention to the lyrics in our amazing Canadian anthem. The true north, strong and free. We stand on guard for thee. And that's what we're being called to do. Other generations have had to go to war to stand on guard for Canada. We're in our own battle right now with our former best friend. And we all have to step up and do whatever we can, because we can't take this beautiful country for granted. Democracy is fragile. we can see it's definitely under threat in the States.
For sure.
And we have to make sure we don't import that here.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Valerie, for your time this morning. Now, if people have questions for you at all, what is the best way for them to reach out and get in contact with you?
Well, that's a good question. And so I would encourage them to go to my website, because off the top of my head, I don't know that new phone number that we have set up. There's a phone number and there's an info email that they can reach out, and people will make sure that I find out and get in touch.
Okay. And what is your website?
I think it's probably, this wasn't on the list. I think it's ValerieBradford.ca. I'm not sure. You can go on Elections Canada and you can see all the candidates. You probably know, Tony.
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up right now. So it would be Valerie Bradford Liberal.ca.
Oh, right. Okay. And actually here's the phone number.
Okay, sure.
519-893-1201. And you can email info@valbradford.ca.
At valbradford.ca. Perfect. Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much, Valerie, for your time today. And I wish you and the other constituents, a productive campaign, and, where all of you guys get to talk with the residents, and, I'm hoping that we can all act like adults who are adults. So, yes, thank you.
Well, thank you, Tony, for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure to speak with you and anyone else listening today. It's been my honor to serve for 3.5 years, and I hope I get to continue that honor going forward. Thank you so much.